All right, on today's Patriot Nation podcast, we are joined by Mr. Clem, the Clem Report, at the Clem Report on Twitter. He is just maybe the best MCU mind out there. Maybe not the best, but the most enjoyable MCU mind out there is, in my opinion. He's a Mets fan, so he is reveling in the Yankees' just absolute collapse, as all us Red Sox fans are as well. And he's also a Giants fan, and which is why he's here today to talk to us as well, because the Patriots are playing the Giants on Thursday Night Football for their first preseason game. Clem, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. The Mets Sox connection. I always say, we are our motto is F the Yankees, and we will get through that together. So usually at this time of year is when my Mets fandom just becomes, root for the Red Sox and catch the Mets whenever I can and just be sad on my couch. Right now, I'm very happy. I'm rooting for you guys to beat the Braves up a little bit for me. Yep. And it's like everything's good with in Mets land right now, knock on wood. So I'm a Mets Giants gypsy, as my boy KFC calls me, where it's usually Mets Jets. So there's no ill will from me towards you because the Mets and the Red Sox are allies. Right. We won't talk Giants Patriots history, but I have no ill will towards the Patriots. In fact, my only beef with the New England Patriots, because I grew up loving Belichick. My dad worshipped the ground Belichick walked on, and he wasn't even in like a diehard sports fan. He just loved Bill Belichick. Yeah. My only beef is Malcolm Butler not playing in that Eagles Super Bowl, because that ruined so many things I could have had over Philadelphia fans. Forget about Eagles, just Philly in general. And you guys blew that for me. So I'll have a little bit of grudge of you guys about that. But other than that, nothing but love. The Patriots have paid for my paychecks throughout the years at Barstool, all the merch that we've gotten off of you guys and the Super Bowls. So nothing but love for the New England Patriots. Truly, truly, that's how I feel about you guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And you're right. Like, I feel like now I'm in the situation you're usually in, where I'm not watching the Red Sox and I'm just, hoping for the Yankees to lose and rooting for the Mets and saying, listen, maybe they'll get to a Subway Series and embarrass the Yankees. That'd be great. You know what I mean? So it'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. I mean, imagine the Mets winning the World Series against the Yankees. Like, that'd be the best thing ever.
We've talked about this in the past. Like, recently, it's starting to come up now that these two teams, by the way, the Mets have the same record as the Yankees right now. So after that entire first half where the Yankees were the best team in blah, 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 and the Mets have just quietly, I've heard it was only April, only May, only June. This is different. This team is different. Steve Cohen starts at the top. Bob Kraft changed everything in New England. Steve Cohen's doing the same thing in New York. But like that, Mets Yankees World Series it could kill me before it's over. So if the Mets win, I might not even be alive anymore, because we're going to be doing streams a bunch of times, I'm sure, during the playoffs. It's going to be me. It's going to be KFC, the We Gotta Believe podcast. If any Mets fans have any other Mets Patriots gypsies, subscribe to the We Gotta Believe podcast, which is would be a very interesting combo. And then we're going to have Frank the Tank, who we're going to be like, there's going to be more fighting between our fan base and Frank than it would be if we play the Yankees and like Hubs and Tommy Smokes and them. So it's going to, and Big Cat bet, I believe, on a Yankees Mets World Series. So we'd have him in the mix. It's going to be just an absolute Portnoy in the middle of it all. It's a very volatile situation that is brewing right now in baseball. So maybe the Giants not being good might actually make it easier on me, but I feel like the Giants are going to I might actually enjoy October in multiple sports for the first time in forever, basically.
It'd be pretty cool. That would be pretty awesome. So, I mean, almost a long way to go in the baseball season, but that'd be a lot of fun. And if we can't beat the Yankees, at least we can revel in someone else beating the Yankees. And, it being the Mets makes it even better, because it's like, who would the Yankees want to lose to less than the Mets,
That'll hurt them. That'll hurt little brother, as I heard. You guys used to hear that all the time back in the day, I'm sure, and I hear it now in New York. Oh, little brother this, little brother that.
That's what makes 04 so great, because, of course they sweep, St. Louis, but no one even remembers that, right? Yep. Because it was just, you came back from 3-0 against the Yankees, nothing else mattered. It was like the season was already over. It was like, okay, that's it. We've done enough. So it was great. But anyways, we're not here to talk baseball. We're here to talk football. So the preseason is starting, and Patriots and Giants play on Thursday night. You're obviously a Giants fan. The Giants and the Patriots right now are in similar, maybe not completely organizational, but offensively are in similar situations where they're trying to overhaul the offense. Of course, you guys have a brand new head coach. We have a brand new offensive coordinator who a lot of people don't like. And so a complete offensive overhaul, and it just hasn't looked very good on either side. So, I mean, the Giants, let's just,
Do you have a
Try
coordinator?
to.
Do you guys even have, like, I don't think there's no job titles. I don't think
There is no job
around.
title, but the biggest reason
I
why there's
love
no
it.
job title, the biggest reason why
So they
there's no
can make
job
their
title
money, right?
yes, because Matty P can keep getting paid by Detroit as long as his job title isn't too big and he can get paid like a certain amount or whatever. They can't name him the offensive coordinator.
God
So.
bless Bill Belichick. I imagine that's the same with Joe Judge too, right? We have to keep
Same
paying
thing.
him.
Same thing. Yep. So
Crazy
they're
how
both
times have
like
changed.
coordinators. Yeah.
Last time I was on here, we're talking about Joe Judge from the Patriots. And listen,
Yep.
I will go to my grave because I know we'll be talking about the current Giants stuff like that. I will go to my grave saying Joe Judge got a raw deal here. I'm not going to say he was definitely going to be a good coach, great coach, any of that stuff. But I mean, the guy who hired him was Dave Gettleman. So if you sign up to work with Dave Gettleman, you have to deal with all the stuff that comes
Right.
with working for an absolute buffoon. So maybe he doesn't get the job if Gettleman is the GM. I also think Belichick kind of like signed off on Judge, which is probably a reason they want him. And you guys would know a lot more than me. I wouldn't be surprised if Belichick, at least at one point, said maybe this guy could be the successor in 500 years when Belichick decides to leave the earth. So I'm happy. I'm happy he's back where he is. I'm rooting for him. Like, I love Joe Judge. That it was, a little tongue in cheek, the laps and all this stuff. Call him Coach Judge, but. I liked him. I think he got a raw deal here. Jason Garrett was thrust upon him, which I think caused a lot of the problems. The offensive line just never got fixed. Just refused to do it. So I'm rooting for you guys. And again, though, I have no idea how this is going to work with Patricia, Judge, no titles on the offense. I always know never bet against Bill Belichick too. So that's just me.
Right. Well, which is very true. And that's the biggest thing for us. That's what we're holding on to is like, just like, you just have to trust in Belichick that he's going to figure it out, right? And when the bullets are flying and everything's going on, and are they going to be able to figure? I mean, yeah, I think they're going to be able to figure it out. Is it going to take a lot? Yes. My personal theory about the Patriots is that 2023 is the year that they're really trying to push because they got $100 million in cap space coming up, and if they think this offense is better for Mac Jones and the rest of the guys in the offense, get this offense ready to go, even if they don't fully 100% understand it. Before the end of the year or until the end of the year, fine, whatever, no big deal.
Yep.
And then we'll figure it out by week 10. And then next year we're running it great. And oh, by the way, we have $100 million in cap space, and Mac's going into his third year and has gotten better, and so on and so on and so on. So, like, that's kind of how they're not punting this year. Like, some people are like, oh, you think they're punting? Like, no, they're not punting this year, but they're saying like, we're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So like, yeah, if we win 9-10 games, that's kind of what we're angling for, and then next year's the year that we kind of take that leap. You know what I mean?
Yep.
With the Giants, it's a little bit different now. Of course, Brian Daboll, and this is where it's like, okay, don't bet against Bill Belichick. I love Brian Daboll. I mean, you look at what happened to Josh Allen when Brian Daboll showed up, and I mean that's night and day. Josh Allen couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Like, it was unbelievable. It was one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks I've ever seen ever. And then he comes in, and all of a sudden he's like the best quarterback in NFL history. It's crazy. And so, like, and now, of course, Daniel Jones, like, who knows? But, like, at least then you look at it and say, okay, we know. Like, Daniel Jones isn't the guy. Fine, we can move on. Or maybe there's some miraculous transformation, and Daniel Jones is good. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been riding the Dan wagon. This is a funny thing. I said I'm going to ride with Daniel Jones because you have to kind of ride with your guys. I hope he does good. We drafted him, and everyone just gave up on him on draft night because they didn't draft Dwayne Haskins. And I'm not going to like bash Dwayne Haskins. Obviously, rest in peace. Drew Lock was the other quarterback in the draft, and then after Daniel Jones, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions his rookie year. Everyone came on the Daniel Jones train. Had to fix his fumbles. I think he can fix that as he gets older, get a better offensive line. Then he has the worst offensive coordinator in football. Offensive line never gets fixed. But if there's going to be a dude that can kind of like pick up the pieces, get them fixed, I think it is Brian Daboll for all the reasons you just mentioned. He doesn't have the arm of Josh Allen, but he was accurate, to start with more than Allen. Both athletic. I mean, Josh Allen is like a truck, though, compared to Daniel Jones, who kind of breaks down, which is his other problem, is he does get hurt a lot. But if just based on the Josh Allen thing, and it's like, oh, you're going to say he's Josh Allen? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he at least can put him in the right direction like he did. Josh Allen was like a meme. It was like a joke. I mean, part of my take, draftjoshallen.com, the laser rocket arm. Everyone thought he was, what was the guy on the Kyle Bowler when he hit on his knees, he hit like the crossbar or something like that. And
Jamarcus Russell used to do it. I mean, it's like,
So if there's no excuses now for Daniel Jones, and if he gets hurt, if this neck issue, whatever, or he's just not very good, he has his offensive line. They're not going to be perfect. It's probably going to take time to gel. His right tackle's a rookie, even though he could be a stud of a rookie. You have Andrew Thomas on the left, and you have weapons. I mean, Kadarius Toney, I think, is going to be awesome this year. I'm drafting in all my fantasy leagues. I don't think I don't think anyone in my league is listening to this one, so I can actually say that. I'm keeping that one pretty close to the vest. Galladay will be fine because they never ran Kenny Galladay routes. His route is contested catches. Whenever you see Kenny Galladay on the lines, that's all he did. He did it with bad quarterbacks. He did it with Matt Stafford. He did it with anybody. And then Wan'Dale Robinson looks awesome. So with all that together, Dable's mind, a line, Kafka from Kansas City, who sounded like they kind of wanted to move him into the offensive coordinator role, but no one would hire Eric Bieniemy. So he kind of was just like, all right, screw this. I'm not waiting around. And he kind of saw it there. You would know more than pretty much anyone outside of Bills fans what the evolution of Josh Allen has been.
Right.
Joe Shane obviously working in unison with the GM there, and then you have what's his name, McDermott as the coach. So it's like Buffalo became like a team you guys would just steamroll every year to actually coming back and beating you guys, having perfect games on offense, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, as long story short, I feel like I'm going to have a better experience with Brian Dable than Jason Garrett running the offense.
You would think, right? You would think. And again, like the other part of it is that Saquon came back, fairly healthy at the end of the year last year, and it looked pretty good. And if he can play, he's so dominant. He's so good. If he could just stay healthy, he has the potential to be amazing. And so that's, that would be awesome. And with the improved offensive line, forget about and then you add the weapons, like you said, in the passing game. And it's like that Giants offense could be really good,
There's a video going around right now where Saquon kind of shows that burst. And you're like, ooh, haven't seen. And everyone who's freaking out last year, and listen, like Saquon is always basically since his second year, ever since Jones came in and he got that high ankle sprain against the Bucs, he's like always had something nagging, just never been right. And maybe he's never going to be right. I don't know. It feels like just the curse of Gettleman. You're taking him that high, and everyone's crapped on the pick ever since. But that guy was special his rookie year. And that was just his rookie year with the same line problems we've had with an Eli Manning that was on his way out, all this kind of stuff. You put that guy with an offense like Dable and an offensive line. That's another guy like in the leagues I am in redrafts in. I'm going to take a quote unquote flyer on Saquon because that guy could do stuff. They were throwing, passes to him. I go, oh, we realize Saquon Barkley has great hands, and in space, he's an absolute nightmare to deal with. This is like the kind of stuff like they were running him straight into the line with Pat Shurmur against the Jets defense that used to I think he had 6 rushes for -5 yards because they were just running him directly into the line. So what are you guys doing? You play Madden, you would never do anything like that. We were doing this in the NFL. So Saquon is like a huge X factor. And it's my fault for not even mentioning him with all the other guys in terms of the passing weapons. He's that in the backfield. And then as a pass catcher, he can he did it against the Saints. He had that huge touchdown. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Saquon Barkley can catch patches. So I am extremely excited for him to be back. And again, just with Jones and everyone else, injuries and all that kind of stuff. But if that is giving a nuclear weapon to a guy like Dable, and I'm excited because the Bills never really had a guy like that during their time that was that explosive.
They didn't. They definitely didn't. Out of the backfield for sure. I mean, people thought it was going to be Zach Moss. People thought that this guy here, that
Singletary was all right, but not like that.
Right. I mean, this Saquon's a generational talent at running back if he can stay healthy, and then I just think that Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson are so fascinating because they're the same type of player. Obviously, a little bit different, not exactly the same, obviously, but the same type of player where they just have that crazy athleticism, that burst, and that like wiggle, and they're both not very big, but like, you know, that's exactly what you want. I think, at least from an offensive perspective. And that's, you know, Wan'Dale got taken at 43. Patriots trade up for Tyquan Thornton at 50, which like blew me out of the water. But like, he's looked good in camp, you know, and Robinson's looked good in camp. Like these guys, those are the types of guys that win. These are the guys, like the super fast, crazy athletic freaks. Those are the guys that you want on your team, not the, you know, N'Keal Harry, who's like 6'5" and can't get any separation and just wins because he's so like physically imposing. It's like, well, that's nice in the, you know, in the Pac-10, but like it's not going to work in the NFL, you know? And so like speed always plays as long as you can run a route, unlike McCole Hardman. Like McCole Hardman's super fast, but he can't run a route and can't catch a pass.
Yep.
So like, but like if you can run a route and catch a pass, you have speed. That's enough. You know what I mean? And so I'm excited to see those two guys together on the same team on the same field. That could pose a ton of problems for opposing defenses.
100%. I went to Fan Fest the other day with the family and just got to kind of see the Giants practice. And Wandale I was like, oh, there's Wandale Robinson. I didn't look at the number. You could just tell that guy was playing at a different speed. And Kadarius, the funny thing I've noticed in terms of like people who maybe don't follow the Giants as much, a lot of like the fantasy guys, they're always saying, redundancy. I'm like, Kadarius Toney's like low key kind of big. He can play the outside. He was playing the slot because that's what he did, I think, in Florida some, and they used him in all these different roles, but he can play the outside. And I think Wandale, then, the best part is to have where you can kind of just move these guys around, put them in the inside, put them in the outside. I said it before last season. I said, I can't even imagine a world where you're throwing Kadarius Toney in motion after seeing his highlights at Florida, the Percy Harvin comparison, which unfortunately have panned out very well. So far, he's explosive, he gets hurt, and he might be crazy. But those three things are all together. But when Percy Harvin was on, he was as electric a player as there was. But I'm saying you're moving Kadarius Toney in motion. You have Saquon in the backfield. And Daniel Jones is like, you see those numbers every year. It's like top 3, top 4 when it comes to like top speed he gets. He's pretty goddamn fast. So it's like you have the defense have to account for all that. Now that we have Dable, we would just put guys in motion to put them in motion, and we would just run an offense from 1995. Dable should be running stuff that's going to be that crazy. And with a guy like Toney and then a guy like Wandale. And a lot of Giants fans didn't like the pick as soon as it happened. But I know a couple like Kentucky fans, and they were like, oh, no, trust me. This guy is the real deal. And there's one thing when a college fan is speaking about their guy, you can tell that's just they love him because they watch him for a few years on TV. It's like, no. This guy is someone that you are just not going to like. You don't see a guy like this. And you guys kind of, like you said, the same thing with, I hope Belichick like figured out a way to hack the Steelers draft board and be like, all right, whoever those guys are picking, we're going to take, because they don't miss.
That's what's so terrifying is that the Patriots trade up to 50 in front of Pittsburgh, take Tyquan Thornton, and then Pittsburgh took George Pickens right afterwards.
Yep.
And Pickens has been balling out in camp. And when the Patriots traded back to 29, I wanted the Patriots to draft Pickens at 29. So then when they moved it to 50 and Pickens on the board, I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. And they draft Tyquan Thornton. I'm like, what the hell, dude? But, it's similar to what you said, like same thing, Wandale Robinson, there's a ton of questions with him. Tyquan Thornton, you listen to the draft, the draft experts, and they're like 5th, 6th round pick after he ran a 4.28 at the combine. I'm like, all right, this guy must suck. I watched zero clips of him. We do a decent amount of like, draft coverage here.
Yep.
I watched 0 seconds of film from Tyquan Thornton because I'm like, this guy must suck. Like, if he's running that fast at the combine and they still have him a 6th round pick, my guy must be terrible, And they drafted him, and I'm watching the clips, and I'm like, this guy looks pretty good. Like, he can run a route. He catches with his hands. He like breaks tackles. He like does a good job blocking. He's not very big, but like, he's tall, but he's just lanky, but fine. But I'm like, there's no way this guy should have been a 6th round prospect. Like, just the way he gets off the line and runs routes, like it's not even close to that. And then you see it in camp. You're like, yeah, he's got like that next level speed where like he'll just stop and then run. And then you're like, oh my God. He had a rep yesterday where he just did like a stop and go, and the corner just had 0 chance. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was one of those ones where you're like, oh God, don't show that clip again. So, like,
that's where you root for your guys, and you're like, oh, but the other guy is our guy too. That's, I don't know, I'm gonna just take the good with this clip and not the bad.
Right. Exactly.
And I had to look it up too, and sure enough, I remember Tyquan Thornton. I remember blogging it. I was like, that's an Oakland Raider right there, because he was just running. He was so goddamn fast. They thought he broke the record, and that was the unofficial. And then the official came in, and he didn't break it. But again, Belichick's track record is poor to homeless, basically, when it comes to receivers. But like, I always like when there's someone who has something that they're really good at, and if Belichick can figure out a way, and that's with you guys. At this point, you feel like you have one with Mac. If Mac, just give Mac some weapons here, and then just see how this guy's going to grow. It sounds like he has it everywhere else, but he's not going to be able to do it by himself. And Brady by the end was like, "Come on, guys, what are we doing here?"
Right, and that's it. And the big thing for me is that you got to have a plan, right? And that's one of the things with the Giants that you were pissed about, during the Gettleman years, is that they didn't even have a plan. They're just throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks, right? And the Patriots looked at it and said, "Okay, we can't compete with the Bills. We can't compete really with any of these top teams." because we're too slow. We're old and we're slow. So they got the most athletic guard to come out in the last 50 years, or the fifth most athletic guard to come out of the draft in the last 40 years. They got the fastest wide receiver in the draft. They got the fastest running back in the draft. They got probably the most athletic, speed-wise cornerback in the draft, and another one of the most athletic cornerbacks in the draft. Those five, and they just that's all they did. They were like, all right, we need to get more athletic. We're just going to get all the athletic guys. And that's what they did. And it's like, okay, at least they have a plan. At least okay, we're trying to get faster everywhere. That's what we're going to do. And you already see Marcus Jones, they drafted in the third round, who by the way, my mock draft 1.0, the week before the Super Bowl, pick 85, Marcus Jones, cornerback of the Patriots. And I nailed it. And it was because oh my God, dude, the clips are just outrageous. He just has so many unbelievable clips that you watch it and you're like, okay, this guy is he gets it. 9 return touchdowns in his career, just an electric return guy, but also he's short and he's small, but he's stout. And so he plays the run. He comes up and hits people. It's so I'm this is the guy, so whatever. But that's what they did. It's you got a plan. So it's okay, you see the plan happening. The Giants this year, hey, we need offensive line help. Okay, let's draft a stud offensive lineman. Hey, you know what else we could use? Some more help at wide receiver. Oh, let's take a crazy athletic, wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson at 43, right? So it's so you see the plan at least in place where you're all right, at least the person in charge has an idea of what they're doing, and you can see the route. You know what I mean? And so maybe they're not going to be great, but at least you can talk yourself into at least know what they're doing.
Yeah, and with us, we're kind of again the ghosts of Gettleman's past are going to come back to haunt us just because there is some dead cap there, and just the money we had to cut James Bradbury just to make ends meet with everything. But at the same point, it's now we're also changing systems, which you know how that goes. I mean, the Patriots, one thing at least you've had the consistency with the head coach, and Belichick likes to be a chameleon. I mean, that's the one thing about him that I've always loved from the outside looking in, but. Now we're going to the Wink Martin system where we were bend don't break, and now we are blitz until they burn you basically.
Yeah.
And our secondary is kind of the thing that's a little thin. We have a couple studs in McKinney and Xavier McKinley and Adoree Jackson, but then it's the depth chart is not nearly as deep as I would like it to be. And Bradbury wouldn't have been a great fit with Wink Martindale, but it's and we have these 2 pass rushers, but it just feels like the defense is going to be the shortcoming this year where the offense was the last couple of years. So it's always, it's whack-a-mole when you're a bad franchise. You guys have usually, if you guys lose, it's all right, it's there is a good team there. It's just maybe the quarterback needs a little seasoning, maybe we got to fix this guy's hurt on the defense, stuff like that. But yeah, comparing the Giants to the Patriots right now is not even apples to oranges. It is apples to dog shit basically.
Well, so and the thing, and the Patriots have had a little bit of a talent void as well, because they they did kind of a rough job drafting, and they went all in on Brady towards the end, right? So they just didn't have. And they missed on some picks late, right? So it's they've been missing some talent, and I think they've done a good job replacing it. But that's all you can kind of do. And as Daboll comes in, and I think this is where it gets interesting, because you don't know how Daboll is as a head coach, right? You see him obviously the greatness as an offensive coordinator, but the question is, how good of a head coach can he be? What type of system is he going to run in the locker room, right? Where it's okay, this is how we do things, and everyone buys in, and everyone figures it out, and everyone goes there, right? So you say, okay, if he does that, and if he gets the buy-in from everyone, okay, maybe we don't have the horses this year. Maybe our defense sucks this year, and we don't have the guys. But if everyone buys in, and we can see, the improvement from some of these guys, now we know, okay, in a year or two, we're going to be a problem, right? And then you look at it, on the offensive side of the ball, and now, and I mentioned it already, but Daniel Jones, Daniel Jones is the guy, right? Is he the guy? You have to decide that this year, right? And so it's you're going to find out whether he's the guy or not, right? And so you figure a year in the system, you got the weapons, let's see what happens, improved offensive line. Now if he sucks this year, and you're okay, well, then we move on, and we draft a quarterback next year, and we start it all over again, right? But at least we have the pieces around him already, so he's coming in not to an offense that's in shambles. He's coming into an offense that has some talent around him, and now that guy can perform. You know what I mean? So that's a huge thing for me. Is Daniel Jones, Is he in the 5th year of his contract already this year, or is he going into his like?
Well,
Did they pick up his 5th year
no,
option?
they declined the option. So that's the other thing.
Okay,
So he's
so
not
this
even going to
is
be.
his last year.
This is make or break for him right now. And
Right.
like you said, the plan is to not do with the next quarterback what they did with Daniel Jones, which let's remember, Daniel Jones didn't get drafted, and then it's all right, you're going to be the quarterback. It was all right, Daniel Jones is going to sit behind Eli. They called it the Kansas City method or whatever, where it's like, all right, and then they started him in like week 4 or whatever it was, and it's like, oh my God, there's just no goddamn plan here. I don't know what's going on. It's just, it's absolutely crazy. And then he came in to just a completely under-talented team. So yeah, I do think the team is leveling up. I do think there's talent there. And you nailed it on the head. The biggest unknown is what Brian Daboll is as a head coach. And I've heard the Bills fans, you're going to get a very mixed bag of what, everyone hates the offensive coordinator, right? It's like, I know with Kevin Gilbride, he used to run on 3rd and 18. He'd run the quarterback draw or the running back draw from shotgun. And Kevin Kill Drive was his name. But you know what? Those offenses always put up points. We won a couple Super Bowls with it. And I give anything to have that goddamn asshole back in my life.
Right.
And now it's with Daboll. And this is the interesting thing for, like, if you want to paint it, like Eagles fans will tell you this, or any Giants rival will be like, look at Daboll. He's a Patriots guy. Patriots guys usually don't work out well as head coaches if they're not with New England, because he was there years ago. He was not a very good coordinator, but he's with the Browns and the Dolphins. And, Browns and Dolphins have been bad forever on offense. And it's not like he was in a system that was nearly as good as Buffalo. And it's not like Josh Allen was a finished product when he got him. He was as raw as they came, and he helped build them up. Then they'll say Ken Dorsey was the reason that Josh Allen became good, not Brian Daboll, who we tried to hire as the coordinator, and the Bills blocked it. And, they elevated him to that position. So it's as a coach, as a head coach, which is kind of the CEO of everything. And I'm hoping Kafka has his fingerprints all over the offense. That is the big thing with Daboll. And that's the kind of thing that, even though I think Judge got a raw deal, there is a time where I've been doing this a lot. Trust me. I think it's my 5th head coach in like 4 years or something. It's something crazy. It's McAdoo, Shermer, Judge, and Daboll. And that's since 2016. So 6 years, 4 coaches for the New York Giants, who do not go through coaches very easily. Right. But like, I've been thinking of this way too long. I'm going to actually tweet it out, because I tweeted out about 3 months ago, and it hasn't left my head since. And it's going to get really a lot more in the coming weeks as the season approaches. How is Brian Daboll at using timeouts? Right before the 2-minute warning, does he know you call the timeouts before the 2-minute warning? So you're kind of just getting that. It drove me nuts. Judge would just let that clock run down. It would hit the 2-minute warning. We got outscored. It was like 77. It was, I don't think it was, maybe it was like 41 or 56-0 in the last 2 minutes of the first half. And you guys, how many times that was Brady's signature? Was he would take the ball 2 minutes and get even if it was just a field goal, but you got points on the board. And then if you got the ball at halftime, and then you're rolling. And those are the marks of what separates a good head coach from a bad. Using timeouts the right way, knowing when to throw your challenges, not running directly into a line at 3rd and 9 from your own 4, which is it's going to be Joe Judge's like his legacy here, unfortunately. Even if it was Freddie Kitchen who made the call, it's like that doesn't get past the head coach.
No, you're not
winning.
Head coach hears that.
Like,
no, we're not doing that.
Exactly. So that's the biggest concern for me, is I have no clue the man that is being paid a lot of money to coach my team. I have no clue what he is when the game is on and when it's going on. And there was a moment when Pat Shurmur, his 2nd year, and I never wanted Pat Shurmur. I was very much against him from day one, even before day one, when they were even interviewing him. I just was like, I do not like Pat Shurmur. I'm not I'm always right guy, but that one I just smelled out immediately. But there was a game, it was against the Eagles. And the Eagles ran the punt field. When they do like the run the punt team on and they switch it off, made Shurmur call timeout. Then they brought out the other, whatever, like they reversed it. And I think they ended up putting the offense on, got the 4th down. I was like, that guy, like, you can't win a Super Bowl with that guy. That guy's getting out coached. You can't have your coach get out coached like that clearly against a division rival. And Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. We already talked about that. We're going to block that out of our minds. But he's not like, you're not dealing with Vince Lombardi here. And that I was like, all right, I'm done with Shurmur. And then with Judge last year, there was a few times where he just made bonehead decisions, and it was probably after all the crap he's been through. There was probably enough things that just broke fundamentally. That is the thing that caused him to kind of, gum it up, but it got gummed up. And I said, we're just not going to win with this guy. We have to move on. And it killed me to say that, because I really did like him. So again, you guys don't know that, there's millions of Patriots fans who don't know what it's to have the great unknown with a coach right now. You guys have had the same coach forever now.
Right.
And it's terrifying that I could be on this show next year and be like, you told me Brian Dable was going to be good, Pat. You lied to me. You lied right to my face over the computer.
Yeah, no, and that's true. You know what? I used to call that the Brady parlay when they'd score at the end of the first half and then the beginning of the second half, because then it's 10, 14 points all of a sudden unanswered, and then all of a sudden the game's over, and you're like, what the hell?
Beautiful.
And that's one of those things. I'm so happy you mentioned that timeouts around the 2-minute warning. I mean, when there's 2:20 left to go, you run a play, you got 2 timeouts left. Call a freaking timeout. Just don't let 20 seconds run off the clock. You save yourself 20 seconds. You get to run a whole nother play, and then you can take the 2-minute warning. Fine. But like, why the hell run it all the way down? It's just like, those are the types of decisions where you're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why would you, and like, and so, yeah, so you're right. So you'll see, like, what are the decisions that, when you're talking about the head coach, what are the things, and the bullets are flying, what decisions do you make, right? And Bill Belichick, right? We've seen it, right? And everyone talks about the Malcolm Butler interception being the worst play call of all time. Well, forget about that. I bring up the fact that the Seahawks got the ball with 2:05 left and 3 timeouts. They called 2 timeouts with the clock stopped on that final drive. And then Belichick, instead of calling timeout, said, we'll let the clock run down. I'll trot out the defense I want, so he has to run the play that I want him to run.
Yep.
Pete Carroll let Bill Belichick dictate the play that he called on the goal line at the 1-yard line with the Super Bowl on the line. That's insane that he got put in that situation. And so, like, that's the type of stuff where it's like, until you see how the coach can do in those moments, you just don't know, because they've never done that stuff before, and it's not just, well, call the offense, or coach this guy up about that, or talk to this guy about that, or lead the guys in the locker room. We can do that stuff. But then when every single decision is on you, right? That in that Seahawks situation, every single coach on the sideline of the Patriots and the sidelines of the Seahawks, and every single fan in the entire world watching the game is screaming at their television, call a freaking timeout. And the only person who didn't was Bill Belichick, and it was the right move, right? And so does the guy have the balls to do that, right? Belichick in his second year here stays with Brady instead of going with, Drew Bledsoe. A lot of people forget Drew Bledsoe had signed a $100 million contract that offseason, like 3 months earlier, had signed a $100 million contract. And he said, nope, we're sticking with Brady because we're winning with Brady right now. And, he had the balls to do that, right? And so it's like, those are the types of things where it's like, does the head coach have those things? I think Daboll does. I really do. And I think the biggest reason for me, it isn't necessarily, I think obviously, like, you can look at the Patriots and former coaches of the Patriots having that success, but he didn't just come from the Patriots and then become the head coach of the Giants. Like, that's not how it worked. He had to work his way. He failed a few different times, and then he had to go to Buffalo. So he saw how things were done differently in different places. Now, of course, Miami was Flores too, who's a Patriots guy too. So it's like a little bit, but when you're in Buffalo and now they're not doing things the way Patriots do it, right? And you've now failed in 2 different places, and then you had great success in Buffalo, right? So it's like, you kind of have that idea. And this is why I think Josh McDaniels is going to be hugely successful this year. I have never seen a guy in my life, he just owned up to everything. Like, Josh McDaniels in his introductory press conference owned up to everything. Talked about how crappy of a coach he was when he was in Denver, and how he did everything wrong, and he was awful, and he gonna do everything differently, and like, he just owned it all. He was like, nope, it was 100% on me. Like, I blew it, I screwed it up. Like, I'm not making the same mistakes I did there. Like, that's amazing for him to be able to do that. And I think Daboll kind of has that same thing where he's failed at different spots, and now he's looking at saying, no, I got this. I can do this. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've seen it run a few different ways. I have my way that I want to do it now too. And so I've kind of seen that vision. And of course, we won't know until we see it. But I'm fairly confident. Just, just in the way he does it. And I also love the walk in with when he pulls up with the truck and
Yeah,
walks in with the suit on table.
that was so funny. They had that, and then I think the Bears like new GM they showed like, and it was still dark out because it was an hour behind. And I'm like, they're just showing these guys pulling up to work. I'm like, the poor social media people that had to wake up even earlier, so they were
Yep.
at the stadium all ready to go
Right.
and didn't just have to leave their car, but they had to get their cameras and everything. Just absolutely hilarious. And he's done a like in terms of how he's dealing with the players so far. He played Kadarius Toney's music during practice and stuff like that.
That's
and I
right.
do think that is something that reaches a guy like Kadarius, like, oh, this coach cares about me, is liking my music. And he's like, oh, there was a few songs I like more than others, and yada yada. So that's how you get these guys to buy in and stuff like that. Because especially with a new coach and guys that just went through a hell season, you want to kind of be like, hey, everything's new here. We're going to start fresh. So he seems like the players like him. Obviously, it seems to happen a lot when you deal with like the disciplinarian. You kind of get like the players coach afterwards.
Right.
And I can convince, like, I've been doing mental gymnastics for so long with all these coaches. I can convince myself in no time that Dable's going to be fine. I'm like, well, technically he's the Belichick tree, but he did spend some time with McDermott, who came from Andy Reid. So it's basically the Andy Reid tree. I'm like, it's like the Belichick leaf on the Andy Reid tree. It's kind of a sapling. We genetically, engineered it, and it's the Reid Belichick tree, the most beautiful tree in the world. Right. If you could put those two things together, Reid's regular season success, Belichick's playoff success, and by the way, was in Alabama with Saban for a year, so you get Nick Saban success in there. So again, mental gymnastics Giants fans have been doing, like, because again, we're watching the draft, we're scouting the draft from October on because their season's over, right? And then we're looking at a new coach every other year. So yeah, I can convince myself everything's going to be fine with Dable way too easily. But again, the timeout thing, that is day one stuff. Those every second should be treated like oxygen, and you just need as much of that oxygen as you can, like if you're drowning. And by just burning off 20 seconds because the 2-minute warning is coming up, it makes no sense. You're just getting rid of 20 seconds of oxygen. You would never do that. You would never in a million years. And then like the little things, not to keep harping on this, but like when you have to make them either run the ball basically to kind of just burn that little extra time, or they can throw the ball and then, maybe you get a pick, maybe you have an incomplete pass, and the time, you have maybe another extra second before the 2-minute warning. There's just so many things that can just, so I don't even care how Dable is at it. If he hires a guy, because everyone has a guy these days. We have sabermetrics people. We have all these different, crazy jobs. Just a guy to handle the clock. If he does that, that's fine. That shows me leadership. So I'll take that even. Dable doesn't be good at it.
Well, and that's the thing, right? If you're not good at it, that's okay to not be good at it, but know you're not good at it and get someone else to do it, right? Yes. Like, no, this is one of my faults, so I need someone else here to do it for me. And that's totally fine, right? And maybe he'll learn it, but he's like, I'm not comfortable with it yet, so I'm going to bring someone in just to help me with that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it does show some good leadership. What are you looking for specific? What are you going to be watching? I mean, it's freaking preseason. Mike Reese was saying today that he thought that Mac Jones may not even play on Thursday night, which is crazy, But I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but that's what he thought. So we'll see. And
Mike Reese is plugged in too, right?
Plugged in. Yeah.
He's like, I listen to some podcasts and I always hear them say like, that's as good as you're going to get for accuracy when it comes to Patriots. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been covering them forever for ESPN. So he was, when ESPN first split up into the cities, he's been the ESPN Boston guy since then. So
do they still have the cities there? I don't even know.
Really.
I used to live on ESPN.com back in the day.
Yeah, they kind of do, but not quite as much, I don't think. I think there is like an ESPN Boston, but it's not like you just work for ESPN now, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways, what are you looking for on Thursday night? Because again, it's preseason. It's the first preseason game of the year. It's not really, it's like fake football, but there's still things to watch.
So we talked about this before we went live, and there was a couple throws that Daniel Jones has had that everyone's freaked out about. And apparently, I've been told through the beat writers who've been tweeting it, they say like the way Dable runs his practices is he's like, you have to throw to say the X receiver here. If he's triple covered, you're throwing to the X receiver. We just want to see how this play looks. And there's some things that look bad to people that don't understand the way the practice is going. That maybe bad. I also think Jones is struggling picking up the offense, which I'm not shocked about. I wish he wasn't doing it. So again, first preseason game. Am I going to get it? Usually it's a drive out of the starters. At least maybe we'd have two back in the day when Eli was starting. I'd like to see Jones, look good. The fact his neck didn't linger, I thought that was like potentially a thing that was going to be a problem to enter camp, but luckily not. At this rate, there's two things. One, we have some pretty fun rookies that I just want to see on the field. I want to see, you talked about Wandale. I want to see Evan Neal, right tackle, just see him just, stonewall guy a couple times. Kayvon Thibodeau rushing the passer, just kind of get to see him. And the other thing is I want the Giants to just find decent returners. Actually, like punt return at this point is probably not even or kickoff return is probably not even going to be a thing. The people are going to take the touchback every single time. But I just want to have, I remember back when the 07 playoff run, we had like RW McCorders who would occasionally like return a ball a little bit and you get like, an extra 10, 20 yards. And it just makes life so much easier. So I'm kind of interested to see how, I haven't really been following the return game all that carefully, but I just want to see how, if there's anyone that kind of gets the juices flowing. And I guess the third thing is if Matt Breida plays and hopefully doesn't get hurt, because that's like his MO, is I saw him at the Fan Fest, and he was another guy I go, oh, that must be Matt Breida, because he was just moving at another speed. I didn't see Saquon like really carry the ball, but I saw the other running backs who stink compared to him, and I was like, oh, there's Matt Breida. So I am excited to see if he can get a long run. And again, this is the biggest thing. I think you'll agree with me. Just stay healthy. Nothing good happens. We always get this guy got carted off, and half the times it's for cramps, and they're not going to make a guy walk off in the heat, and it's yada, yada, yada. But, it's going to happen to every fan base. We're going to have that one injury scare that's just going to, make everyone, go crazy. And hopefully it's not in a game, or it could be in camp, whatever it is, but just stay healthy.
Yeah. Oh, that's the biggest thing, man. You hate to see guys get hurt no matter when, right? Doesn't matter when. You hate to see guys get hurt. But if it happens in a freaking preseason game, it makes it so much worse, because you're like, it doesn't even count. It's irrelevant, right? There's just guys trying to make the team. And, it's tough, man. And I'm, for me, I'm looking at the same stuff. I'm looking for the same thing. I have a few, Marcus Jones. The return game. Brandon freaking Bolden would catch the ball 8 yards deep in the end zone and take it out and get tackled at the 15. I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we returning this ball and just take a knee, right? So, but he's got some juice. So let's see what he can do. Kick return, punt return. And, there's a few guys. Trey Nixon's a guy. So Ernie Adams, he was going out last year, and his last pick, Belichick said, all right, pick whoever you want. Last pick of your career. And so he picked Trey Nixon, who was a wide receiver from UCF. Just, no one had ever heard of him. He's just some guy. And I was like, that guy's going to be Patriots Hall of Famer. I was like, because it's freaking Ernie Adams, And so I'm on the, and he had a great spring, and he's been doing decent now. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. The Trey Nixon. I call myself the conductor of the Trey Nixon hype train, because
can I ride? I would like a ticket on this train,
right.
because I love Ernie Adams. I never will be sure. What is it? Pink Stripes, right? That's the infamous thing. Yeah. I've always loved him. I've read a couple of Belichick books, and they've kind of gotten into their relationship and stuff like that. So I absolutely love the mystery that is Ernie Adams.
That's getting tweeted out that we have a new member on the Trey Nixon hype train. Clem is on the Trey Nixon hype train. Love it. So
it's TREY or TRE?
TRE.
I like that Y. I like that Y a lot more. Trey that's a cornerback name. I'm a numbers guy. I'm also a name guy. What though? They have to.
He's like a slot speed, like a speed slot guy. So like a deep slot guy.
Okay, so yeah, you may not want to have the Y, because it might slow you down a little bit. Right. And with the old Belichick receivers, they would be a TREY guy. I'll take a TRE guy.
Hey,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Talk himself into it.
Who's talking? Ernie Adams looking at me like, come on. It's with a Y, Clem? Really? It's like, you're right, Ernie. You are the knower of all things. So wow.
My favorite, the Ernie Adams story, and this is how, he took David Gibbons in the 7th round back in 2002. And so the story is that they're in the 7th round, and Bill says, Ernie, you get this draft pick. And he's like, all right. And he's just pouring over scouting reports, just nonstop. And Bill's like, hey, we're up. And he's like, nope, not ready yet. And so he just keeps going, dude. 8 picks went by. 8 picks. He just let him go. And then he goes, there's the guy right there. And they drafted David Gibbons. It was like unbelievable. And David Gibbons had 7 straight games where he had a touchdown catch in the postseason. It was just stupid. And then he went to Tennessee, got a big contract in Tennessee, and blew out his knee and never played again. But but he was good for the Patriots forever, and he was a 7th-round draft pick from Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was like a running team that never threw.
Yep.
And so like he had 0 stats in college, but he's like, this kid has it. It's like, how the hell did he see that? You know?
Okay, can I get a first class ticket on the on the train? Because I'm telling you right now, you're selling me even more. Because I didn't realize that David Givens story. And was this the video where he like basically said goodbye, got like the standing applause?
Yep.
So that was after he made the pick.
Right. So he literally stood up. They go, Ernie, we're going to give you the last pick. He literally walked over. It was the opposite of the David Givens story. He literally walked over, grabbed Trey's name, and goes, hit Trey Nixon. That's the pick. And I was like, he's had that in the freaking chamber. That's his guy, dude. Like,
oh my God. I wish I could bet the Barstool Sportsbook responsibly bet David Givens he goes to the Patriots Hall of Fame. Trey Nixon.
Right.
I love this.
So that's my guy. So Clem is on the that's right. Clem's on the Trey Nixon night train. Love it. So now you got something else to watch on Thursday night. You know what I mean? We're watching for Trey Nixon. All right, so that's gonna be a lot of fun. Before I let you go, though, we know you're a basement boy. If you don't listen, I know some people aren't nerds like us, but if you're not following My Mom's Basement, it's amazing. You and Robbie Fox do an unbelievable job.
I appreciate it.
How do you feel about the direction of the MCU? Because we've talked about the direction of the Patriots, we've talked about the direction of the Giants, and the Patriots were kind of in that. The MCU is almost like kind of like the Patriots right now, where they were like so good and dominant forever, and now they're like meh, and kind of people are struggling and people are jumping off the bandwagon. And but how do you see this coming? Are you excited about She-Hulk, and what did you think about Miss Marvel?
So
loaded question.
Yeah. So before all else, I guess the biggest thing to say is hashtag trust the Feige, which is trust the process, right? Feige is our Belichick. And the way Endgame wrapped everything up, Infinity War before that, and even how he's basically like revived Spider-Man just by helping out here and there, by just giving his notes to those idiots at Sony. But I'm with that. I think the majority of people here, where like this current phase, it's like it's not great. Some of the stuff isn't even very good, but it's passable. I think they have a lot of big things they have to tackle in terms of the characters that they're bringing in, because there is some magic stuff, there is some space stuff, there is stuff that doesn't translate to screen as well as like an Iron Man with his Playboy and fun technology, or Captain America fighting Nazis in the in World War II and stuff like that. So I feel like there has been a little bit of growing pains, but I think there's been multiverses, which is like a whole other we're going to be dealing with the hardcore magic stuff, the Eternals, where you're dealing with Celestials and these monstrous like space creatures. It's a lot to digest. I think it's a lot to take in. And to be honest with you, those comic books I didn't even get into as a kid because it was just too much for my dumb brain to kind of digest all. Yeah. But I do think they've done as good a job as they probably could have done, but I think they're doing a fine job. The upcoming stuff, I'm more excited about the stuff coming maybe in a year or two than I am of the stuff coming immediately. Like, I do think there's a chance She-Hulk might not be great. Miss Marvel was good. I liked Miss Marvel. Yeah, it's just, it was not for me. It's, it's like a kid. It was more of like a show aimed, I think, towards like teens or tweens maybe. And it's like, I could still get down with it and be like, oh, I like the superhero stuff, but it just like wasn't for me, which is fine. But I think advancing the story, they had enough Marvel stuff there to make it fun. I do think She-Hulk will probably have a little more humor. I just like, it is risky when you have the kind of humor that it looks like it's going to have. And if you don't have a good story or you don't have a good dynamic, it's going to just fall flat. And a bad humor is going to really make people hate the show. So in terms of She-Hulk was probably one of the shows I was looking forward to the least out of all these. But I can basically, like, I have to watch it because it's part of work, unfortunately. Part of work, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Big crybaby over here. But it's like, I can kind of be like, all right, that's kind of a dud, not that great. But at the same point, I always, with the MCU, I feel like we're always building something. And I don't know if this is going to be the case with She-Hulk. If it's not, I hope it's the case with the future, at least the shows where they do have 8 episodes. just keep throwing superheroes at us. Have these
Yeah.
tag team ups. Hey, we're going to be introducing a lot more people.
Well,
Introduce
Charlie
them in the
Cox is
shows.
in She-Hulk, is he not?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I didn't realize that at the time. And we
Yeah.
had Jose Youngs on, which for anyone that doesn't listen to the show,
Oh
there's this
God,
guy,
that
Jose
guy's
Youngs.
freaking genius.
He's an
It's unbelievable.
encyclopedia, man. It's crazy. He's an MMA writer. He also writes, MMA stuff. But him and Robbie, that's how they met. But he's a diehard comic book reader. He's not even as big into the, shows and movies and stuff like that. So he was kind of telling us that there are some cool arcs in these stories coming up. He said, Daredevil plays a big role. I think having Kingpin and Hawkeye kind of made Hawkeye ended up being a little better. And you're going to have, there's a lot of ways a lot of the characters in the upcoming shows do cross over with other big characters that, are either not big in the MCU yet or have just been introduced and, are kind of just in the background. If they kind of just throw these big, and, Disney has an unlimited budget, as we know, they can just all the money they have in the parks there. They can just kind of make things happen and throw all these characters together. And at least for me, that's what I always love comic books is when you saw these people come in. You had, Ghost Rider come out of nowhere, the Fantastic Four hopping in here. And until we get the Fantastic Four, until we get some pretty cool villains, like Doctor Doom, and until my beloved X-Men hit the MCU, I feel like this is just the treading water. And then I think once Kang comes in and we start getting Kang just running wild,
that's gonna be nuts.
Yeah. And everyone remembers like Thanos came in and Thanos was kind of the big bad. Even if he wasn't in it, he was kind of the specter above it. We don't have that right now. And there was a lot of duds in, the early MCU days too. The Thors, the first two Thors weren't great. There was, a few things here and there. So I'm excited. I'm also skeptical when it's these like, there's just a lot of projects. It's a lot of projects, and the hit rate is not going to be 100% on them. It just can't be. So I'm like, what's the word? Cautiously optimistic, I guess would be the way to put it. And again, it's all because Kevin Feige. It's the only guy. That's the only reason I do it.
Yeah, how do you not trust in Feige, right? And we're at this point where it's like, how do you not trust in him? And you mentioned the mutants, man. When Bruno said mutation to her and the 90s X-Men theme, super subtly, but I was like, what? Wait a second. I was like, oh my God, dude, like 100% goosebumps on that. And that was great. So like, and you mentioned Jose, dude, I'm telling you, anyone out there that's listening, if you're not listening to My Mom's Basement, I would have been 1,000% lost on Moon Knight. I had no idea what the hell was going on.
Nope.
And that single podcast episode helped me out so much because I'm like, oh, now I know what's going on. And I'm like, that's really cool. And like, so, it just, and again, that show was fine. It was good, but it wasn't like amazing. But it's like, you're right. The hit rate's not going to be great. You're not going to hit everything, but it's like, just get enough. And then the trailer for Wakanda Forever drops. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like a top 5 trailer of all time. So I'm like, okay, hopefully that movie will be good. So it's like, you go back and forth and again, you just come back to that same thing like Patriots fans do. We just got to trust in Kevin Feige. You just got to believe that he's going to get it right. Right. And hopefully he does. And maybe he won't. Right. And maybe it's too much. Maybe they've taken on too much. I mean, I heard someone say like, they did. Like they told the Endgame saga or the Infinity War saga, it took them like 11 years. And now this is going to take them like 4 years. Right. And it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff to jam in. But at the same time, it's like, you got all the Disney Plus shows. You can keep those coming and you got the movies. And so it's like they have a ton of projects. They're just squeezed into a shorter time frame. We'd get 1 or 2, Marvel properties a year. Now we're getting like 5 or 6, So it's like, so I can see how they're advancing the timeline quickly, but it's like, things better start making sense to people really quick. Otherwise they're going to, people are already like, I don't understand what's going on. What I heard someone say like, okay, Eternals already happened. There's a giant man sticking out of the earth. No one's even mentioned it. Like what's going on here? And so like, I mean, that's kind of a big deal, that no one's talked about. So it's, it's.
No, I'm 100%. That is one of my favorite things. It's like this giant hand is just, rock hand is creeping out there. And back when the MCU started, it was like, oh, I thought Iron Man was going to suck. I don't even know why I saw it in the theaters. I think it was just because like Robert Downey, I'm like, Robert Downey Jr. probably do a decent job. And then I was like, holy crap, this is going to be what Marvel's like. And now that Marvel kind of has the green, the rubber stamp from Disney, they're going to approve everything. They have this new technology where they can stream it on the shows on TV, which as Robbie said perfectly, it's kind of like they can kind of just get the little comic books, the little side stories just to get you to the movie. So you're not spending 2.5 hours about Moon Knight that is way over your head. And then you can kind of complete it all. I do think that, again, Feige treats this shit like his baby. I think he understands the pitfalls that can come with it. But I also, and the other thing is, no one was complaining about anything that would happen, say in Thor or Thor 2, because no one really cared that much. But
right.
the internet, like, Reddit will kind of harp on things, and I'm with them. That Eternals thing is like a huge plot hole, but it's like there's probably a bunch of them back in the day that we just didn't care about because it's like whatever. So I'm again cautiously optimistic, but again it's trust the Feige forever.
100%. All right, I'm going to let you go because we've taken a lot of your time. I could sit here and talk MCU with you for a whole nother hour.
And listen, to the people out there, I'm not trying to like just plug my show to plug my show. If you are about to watch a new series on Marvel, just watch, or even this upcoming phase. We had Jose on a few weeks ago, and he just kind of just broke down everything from like the comic book perspective, and it taught me so much. And the Moon Knight, I would have been so lost with Moon Knight. I would have hated it, and I would have probably just like dropped it pretty early, kind of just like watched it to do the recaps and then be done with it. But I was able to digest because it's a lot of just crazy crap, and Jose does a great job breaking it down. So I'm happy to hear you felt the same way about it that I did with Jose.
Well, and that's the thing is that, especially a show like that, you had no idea what's going on. No one had any idea what's going on, but that was the idea. That was the whole point. And like, if I didn't know that, I'm going in thinking like, well, why don't I know what's happening here? Right? Like, nothing makes any sense. And it's like, no, that's the whole point. Like, that's the point of the entire comic, is that you never know what's true and what isn't true. Right. And so like, and yeah, that's weird. And people, I'm sure that turns some people off, but at least that going into it. And I thought that was super helpful. And you guys, like, you guys are knowledgeable about it, but I also love the fact that you always try to, you say you're negative when you have to be, but you always try to look for the positive side, which I like, because so many people are trying to, throw out those negative headlines to just because that's what sells, and negativity.
If it bleeds, it leads, baby.
Right. Exactly. And you guys, try, and of course you're not always positive because you can't be, right? But like, you try to find those silver linings, and I appreciate that. So I love listening to you guys. I'm not driving to work anymore, so that was my podcast time. So I'm listening to less and less podcasts over the summer, but back when school year starts again, it'll be back in the rotation. So
that's beautiful. We'll be doing it too. And like you said, Portnoy started Barstool because he's like, it just wants to be like a couple buddies on a Barstool talking about sports. And with the basement, it's like you're just in your mom's basement or in a basement watching a movie or whatever on the screen, some Star Wars, and you're just kind of making some jokes or whatever, and just like being real about it. And like Robbie could be, we always joke about Robbie. He cries because he loved these Star Wars so much, and he just loves it. But I'm also, I also try not to be negative, but I just try to be real. I remember when I said I hated The Last Jedi, and people were like, "What, are you crazy?" And then it reversed on me, and it was like, "Wait, Clem was right about this." And it's like, right, wrong, whatever, to each their own. I'm always just going to be me. I'm not going to say I like something or don't like something just to be, different or contrarian. We're just going to tell it like it is. And, at this point, with everyone arguing online, teach their own. I'm done trying to figure out. I remember, you're a psycho if you like pineapple on your pizza. You're a psycho if you like this. Yeah. Whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat. Life's too short to give a shit about.
I'll never understand how people like pretend to be someone else. I can't. It's like so much work to like remember. Like, how could you remember? Like, oh crap, I'm supposed to hate that. And it's like, well, how could you like? I don't know. I don't know how people do that. It's crazy.
Those hot take artists, God bless them, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Right. Oh my goodness. I guess it's not that hard if you just like, I hate everything like that. Okay. Yeah. All right. That'll work, So anyways, all right. We talked about my mom's basement. What else you got? Please plug yourself before I let you go. I'm sure everyone already knows who you are, but nevertheless, let's do it.
Yeah. So we got my mom's basement. We have the YouTube, so subscribe on the YouTube, or if you listen to your podcast, We Gotta Believe. It's our Mets podcast with me and KFC. We've got a boy Kyle and Meek Phil as well on there. We've been doing 2 episodes a week, and we go live if there's big wins or anything crazy has changed. Actually, that's the other thing I was going to say. Buck Showalter is kind of like our Kevin Feige as well, where I just trust in him. Even like if I could get a coach like. If Brian Dable can be like Buck Showalter, where he makes all the right calls, and you're not going to get a guy like Buck who's so seasoned. He knows the rules better than the umpires. He explains it to them on the field, and I'm just like, oh my God. So if that's the kind of guy I can get. So we got to believe we're obviously living a magical season right now, knock on wood. And then Podfathers, if you're a parent, or some people who listen that aren't parents, they love it too. God bless those people. But sometimes you just need to know you're not in it alone. And we tell parenting the way it is. is. We don't sugarcoat it. We tell it like it is. Maybe gripe a little bit. Everyone can get their gripes out, throw some mailbag questions in and stuff like that. That's with me, Large, and Chaps on Podfathers. And then, barstoolsports.com. I blog. I do all that kind of stuff. Oh, and I don't know if this is an official announcement, but I guess I could say for anyone that's a My Mom's Basement fan, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with the Game of Thrones show when it comes out, because we had a Game of Stools podcast, and I was like, are we going to do this? Are they going to bring it back? Do we have it sold or whatever? And in typical Barstool fashion, I think it's just sitting there. So I think me and Robbie are just going to kind of take it on our plate. So we're going to at least start it up on the My Mom's Basement feed. So if you're a Game of Thrones fan, House of the Dragon coming out end of August, we will be doing probably a preview and then, weekly recaps, just kind of shooting the shit down in the basement for
That's great.
House of Dragon.
Love it. Love it. That's so good. You're like the hardest working man in show business, dude. You got a million shows going on. It's great. It's
and
great.
I got 2 kids. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I'm losing my. Again, this is my happy place out. Yeah, it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting away
Shut
from
up, kids.
family.
I'm working. Oh man. Well, Clem, thank you so much, man. It's always a blast talking to you. I really appreciate it, and thank you for fitting me in. I know you had. It's a crazy week, so I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, I know I'm going to the city. We're doing an interview on Thursday. Tomorrow, I got to take the kids out. So again, kids, work, and then I was like, then the game's over at that point. So it's like, what are we doing here? So
exactly.
Best of luck on Thursday. Everyone stay healthy out there on the field. Everyone be good. And other than I don't care about preseason scores. Best of luck this season. Beat all the NFC teams you can. We face each other.
Same to you.
And nothing but love on this side of the conference of the NFC.
Appreciate it, Clem. Same to you. And then beat the Yankees in the Subway Series, would you? I mean, if they're gonna make the freaking World Series, at least it should be the Mets to win. You know what I mean?
The Yankees are gonna have everything to lose if that happens, man.
And you know what? I want the Mets to win the World Series. Period. Forget about even beating the Yankees. Screw the Yankees. Let them lose in the goddamn first round.
Yeah,
right?
I'm with you on that.
Get them off the back page and get the Mets there. That'd be great.
Yeah, so, unless I have to worry about the Yankees potentially winning a World Series and have to hear the word, 28 rings instead of 27.
Yeah, exactly right.
Get them out of my life.
So, all right, thanks, Clem, and thank you guys. And I will be back Thursday night after the show for a quick, super quick recap. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you.